My 23 female sister 19 female has been inviting men off Tinder to our house pretending she'll have sex with them if they bring food. Then shuts the door in their face. I found this out yesterday and I am horrified. I'd been away for a couple weeks to visit my BF. When I got home, I noticed some takeout containers and figured she'd just been using Uber Eats or something since I usually cook for the both of us. But no. She proudly told me she'd figured out a way to get free food. She wouldn't say what it was, said she had to show me. A couple hours later the doorbell rings. It's a guy with a pizza. Their interaction was weird, like they seemed to know each other and he was trying to come inside. She said let me just put that down and took the pizza. Then said hey thanks for the free meal, and slammed the door on him. She burst out laughing as I was shocked. She explained she matches with guys on Tinder. They flirt and she invites them over to hook up, and asks if they can bring over something to eat. Then does the routine I watched. I was blown away, and the more time passes the more freaked out I am thinking about it. To her this is a clever, hilarious ruse. To me it's ducking terrifying. That guy kept knocking on the door and shouting outside for a couple minutes before leaving. It's only a matter of time before she pisses off the wrong person. There's now who knows how many random men who have good reason to be angry with her and know where we live. She could get herself or both of us robbed, raped, killed. Like holy shit. I literally cannot believe this shit. I tried to explain this to her. I don't know if she genuinely doesn't get it or just doesn't care. When I tried to stress she's literally putting herself at risk of violence by toying with total strangers like that, she just said that wouldn't be my fault if they did something. All she understands is pithy #logic like no means no and my body my choice. She tried to make it about how she's not obligated to have sex with them. When I don't care whether or not she wants sex. I care that that's not going to stop the wrong guy from assaulting her right then and there if he wants to. Or hell, coming back later when she least expects it. She also thinks that because I've been raped by a stranger before, that's making me overreact to this. Yeah, and she hasn't. So she wants to lecture about no means no for any reason when she has no idea what it's like to be screaming no while a guy does whatever he wants. They don't care. And there is a far cry from walking home minding my own business and then someone randomly attacking me, to creating a situation that provokes anger because you lied to essentially scam someone. On top of all this, she's told her friends about it. So there could be other girls doing the same thing. Help. How do I make her understand how incredibly, dangerously stupid this is? I love her and we normally have a great relationship. This is the first actual argument we've had since we were kids. And for the record, she's not some lazy idiot. She's very driven and working part-time while taking pre-med courses year-round. We're a bit tight on money. Yes, but not to the point of needing to risk our safety for a ducking pizza. How do I get through to her? Too long didn't read. My sister discovered that guys will bring her food if they think they're going to get laid. She's done this multiple times and I need her to stop for our goddamn safety. I am not just being dramatic. Right. One day one of these guys is gonna be patiently waiting for her outside with a plan to do her some kind of harm. If you are sisters it's likely you resemble each other and she's also putting you at risk. Tell her to stop or you'll move out and or call your parents. Your sister is an idiot. You can't protect her, but please try to protect yourself. Carry some sort of deterrent spray with you upon entering and leaving your place. 1. Find her Tinder profile. Report her and have her banned. 2. Install cameras at the front and rear of your house. 3. Tell her she has to find another place to live. Show your sister these message if possible. Like hello, do we really have to explain why this is such a bad idea? It'll take that one mother ducker to piss off one guy who gets so angry he breaks the door down, or stalks you and waits for you to exit your house to attack you. What doesn't she understand? This is a terrible game she's playing with strangers who come expecting to get laid and get scammed and laughed at instead. Some men do crazy shit even when they aren't pissed. So imagine when the one guy she shouldn't duck with gets pissed and scammed. That dude isn't gonna take it. He won't wait to do something scary. Best advice to do now: move the duck out. They all have her address and can come back anytime they like. Second story. My wife assaulted my teenage stepsister and I don't know how to move on from this. For some background, my mom and my wife had issues from the beginning. It took years for them to even be able to be civil. We are both huge on family, so my wife knew I was never going to just cut my mom off. But I did stand up for her. My mom got married around the time we did and had 2 more kids. My younger sisters are around the same age as my son and daughter, and that has always been a point of contention with my wife. She feels that my mom and stepdad look down on how we parent. I don't think they have been rude about it, but when the kids are all the same age it comes up sometimes. My wife tends to get annoyed when my mom gives my sisters something that our kids aren't allowed to. And she thinks my mom is snobby because my sisters are barely allowed electronics and my mom is super against any form of daycare. I think my mom and stepdad are just out of touch. He was born with a silver spoon and never had to work that hard. Has lots of free time. And my mom is a stay-at-home mom with housekeepers. They take my sisters out a lot and my kids are jealous because we don't have the time or money. My mom also refuses to babysit because our kids aren't well behaved and doesn't really care that we are working on it. I also have a 17-year-old stepsister Amber. She is okay but keeps her distance from my wife and I. She is very close to my mom and kind of possessive of the two sisters we share. She has been rude to my wife but my mom says it is just teenage hormones and her and my stepdad don't discipline. They just talk to their kids a lot. Okay, sorry for all that backstory. So we recently were at a theme park with all the kids. My wife and I had been in the changing room with our kids and no one knew we were back. Amber was walking in the parking lot with my two little sisters and the 7-year-old says she feels bad for my kids because we don't seem like a happy family and she would be sad if my wife was her mom. Obviously that is one of the worst things a woman can hear and I tried to comfort my wife. Amber, who had her back to us and still didn't see us, respond that it's because we don't know how to parent. Our kids are animals. And she tells my mom to just be done with us. My wife just snapped and punched Amber in the back of the neck. She fell and scraped her knees but was mostly fine. She said her neck hurt but I feel like she was also playing it up for her dad. My stepdad went full on ballistic. Called the cops. Called my wife every name in the book. I understand it was totally wrong but I don't think the police had to get involved. He stopped my mom from cleaning Amber's knee because he wanted it to look bad when the cops got there. My wife was arrested and is being charged with assault, which is worse because she is a minor. I called my mom and begged her to do something but she just says it's up to Amber's mom and dad. Now my stepdad is saying my wife can never be around my sister again. My wife blames my mom, and I don't know what to do. My mom is being smug and acting like my wife deserves this, but these charges could really affect our lives and her job opportunities. I love my mom but it's going to be hard to maintain a close relationship if my stepdad seriously won't let my wife near his kids. Third story. I think my 30 male wife 30 female is becoming attracted to her boss and he is reciprocating her affection. What should I do to tackle this issue? My wife started a job over a year ago at a small game company. She was ecstatic to get a real job where she could make an impact as a game designer. She got promoted to lead game designer a little while ago and is incredibly happy to be in charge of much of the project with a lot of folks working underneath her. Ever since she started, she's been working very closely with the CEO of the company. Some background on this guy. He's foreign, tall, charismatic, rich, and cultured. He's roughly 50 and is still relatively fit. Plays hockey as a hobby. He drives a top-of-the-line Tesla. Lives in a very large and beautiful home. And he lavishes the office with fancy tech and regular meals gifts. She frequently comes home and tells me about his personal life, his wife, his stepkids, as well. She tells me about how he's been making $400,000+ since he was 20. She also regularly mentions how nice his house is and has been bringing up the idea of us upgrading to a larger house for the dogs. I hear about how this guy has basically been printing money from one business to the next and how he rides the stock market like a high roller. My wife also gets upset if her boss doesn't like her ideas. She'll be in a rut about it for a couple days or so and I can see how grumpy she gets. It weighs on her if she's not in his good graces. At the same time, she does think he's a bit silly sometimes with his requests for how the game should be. Sometimes she disagrees with his decisions and I make a comment like that sounds dumb and she gets defensive of him. Goes from I think his ideas are questionable to why are you attacking my boss all of a sudden? That was my red flag number 1. She's being protective of him, just because I agreed with her. It really didn't escalate past that for a while. Then she started buying new clothes. Nothing terribly fancy. She is one of the managers. She might be trying to dress the part. Could be a warning flag though. I even suggested she may want to buy new clothes as a manager. So not super weird. They were professional and appropriate for the office. So I am not super worried. Then she bought Vagisil body wash, a genital cleaning product for the shower. She doesn't take impromptu showers or anything when she comes home from work. But that was a bit odd. She told me I should use it on myself to clean my dick. I thought that was odd. I am very thorough with my genital cleaning. Use a loofah. Sometimes take 2 showers a day if it's hot out and I am sweaty. I am not a smelly guy by any measure. So it was an odd suggestion. This wasn't super odd. But if you add all of these things together, might be a variable. Then we got invited over to her boss's house for dinner. I met some of her coworkers, a friend of the boss who owns a brewery, etc. They seemed nice. The boss dropped that he was making $400,000 a year when he was 20-something in the first real conversation we had. I couldn't help but be reminded of my family's advice. My family is not poor by any measure, that rich people don't brag how much money they have. They keep it to themselves. The boss has a very nice house, but it wasn't like a super baller rich millionaire home. I make more than 6 figures. And if I wanted to, I could likely afford the mortgage for his home. I don't though, because I already have a nice and fairly large home and prefer to live within my means so that my wife and I can not only travel whenever we want, but also be financially dependent by the time we're 40. The other thing I noticed and overheard from conversation is that the boss's wife hasn't been around for several months. She's away. And the stepkids are all grown up. The boss mentioned he gets his better behaviors from his wife as he was entertaining us, but he also mentioned to his brewery friend that it was lonely in the empty house. After that weekend dinner, the following week, my wife came home with some new dresses and whatnot. These were a bit higher quality than anything she would normally buy. Her family had to work for everything they have, so she can be a bit thrifty on her clothes. She does her hair all the time now, spends a lot of time in front of the mirror before going to work, and these new dresses readily show a healthy spoonful of cleavage. These kinds of dresses are the kind she used to wear when we were dating. She switched to more comfortable clothes after we got married. Then, most recently, she asked if I wanted to go out for dinner. We went out to our local pub, had a good meal, chatted. Then she brought up a question. Do you want to go to Spain? It turned out her boss had asked if she and I would go to Spain with him on a work trip. Apparently her boss had suggested I come along or else it might be weird. No one else except some co-worker who already lives in Spain would be with us. The trip is supposed to be sightseeing locations they want to put into the game, but my wife admitted that her boss had wanted to go to Spain on his last vacation only a couple weeks ago and this was his excuse to go there. She also then hinted that it might be boring at times as we explore through random locations looking at how they would fit into the game. It felt like she was sort of trying to deter me from going. Instead of agreeing, I said, no. I wouldn't mind going to Spain. Would be fun. I asked, do small game studios usually do all expenses paid travel to design game levels? She replied, oh, yeah, it's actually super common. I've read that a lot of folks are even saying it should be done more and involve the entire design team. Even the 3D artists. I was also told the company had lots of money and could afford to do this. In my head, I am thinking to myself that even if this is all normal, this is going to become a recurring thing. This boss has no qualms about up and traveling to various places around the world at any time because he has the money and resources to do so. Apparently it's a common complaint that he disappears for months sometimes and leaves the game project in a lurch. I am not 100% comfortable with the fact that this guy who regularly goes out whining, dining, renting yachts, driving fancy cars, and visiting exotic locations, has decided he wants to take my wife along with him. Could it be research for the game? Sure, maybe. It sounds to me more like he's flaunting his money and taking my young attractive wife along for the ride. I wonder why the boss's wife isn't coming to Spain with him. If you read online, folks will tell you must trust your wife, and if you have a good relationship, you'll realize that your wife is a boss professional and has to do all the work trips that will involve. I don't think those folks hear their honey going, hey, I am going to Europe and my boss will be whining and dining me throughout as we explore various beautiful locations, eat lots of food. It will also mostly be just us two. I feel like this might be an attempt to upgrade her lifestyle from the boss's end. Not that I would do this, but if I was trying to steal a man's wife and I had a crap ton of money, taking her out on insane vacations seems like a solid plan to win her affection. You hear about this stuff all the time. It starts as they work together closely and then it's he's so rich and charismatic. But instead of we need to work late, now it's we're going to Spain. All of this is despite the fact COVID is still raging across Europe. Don't get me wrong, my wife and I travel the world too. However, this guy's last vacation was taking a private 150-foot yacht with a built-in jacuzzi and fully weighted staff around the Mediterranean for a month. Just for fun. They had some folks bail on the trip and no one batted an eye. They just carried on. When we go out to Spain, I feel like it's going to be so cushy and luxurious that it'll make our other vacations pale in comparison. This man's lifestyle isn't something we can hope to compete with. Even if this guy has pure intentions, I don't think it's going to change the fact that this will have to have at least some idealizing effect on my wife for her boss. What should my next steps be in resolving this? Too long didn't read. My wife has been dressing up and talking about her rich boss a lot. Now her boss wants to take us to Spain for a work trip that is really a pleasure trip. What should I do in this situation? Hit like. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to our channel.